Hello everyone, so welcome back to my channel. So in this video we will see what is a React component and how we can create the component in the React app. So let's see, the components are like functions that return HTML elements or JSX. So basically the components are like the normal JavaScript functions only, but they return JSX. What is JSX? Let's check out the documentation for that. So JSX stands for JavaScript XML. It allows us to write the HTML in reactjs. So basically whatever we write inside the component return method, we return JSX in that, and that allows us to write the HTML in React, because ultimately the reactjs is a .js file. So if we have to write some HTML code into that, so JSX allows us for that. Okay, now we will create a component. Let's say I want to create a component by the name of navbar. So I'll simply write navbar.js, right? Remember one thing, whenever you are creating any component, the first letter of that component has to be capital. Why it should be capital? Because it helps the React compiler to distinguish between the component and a HTML tag, right? Because HTML tags, they start from smaller case, right? And it will help the React compiler to understand the difference between an HTML tag and a component. Okay, now in the last lecture, as you know, that we have installed one ES7 extension. For that we'll just simply write rfce. When you'll click on the first thing, you can see with the help of that extension we are able to get the whole predefined snippet for this navbar component. Okay, so as I have told you that component is a function. This is a function which is returning us the JSX. So it is returning the JSX. This is the JSX only, right? So now I want to render something inside this, but I will not render explicitly. I will take the help of Bootstrap. So I'll open the browser. In the Bootstrap, I will be finding the components. So inside this components, I want the navbar component. Okay, so inside the components, I'll search for the navbar here. So this is a navbar. In this, if I scroll it, you can see this is the navbar. Okay, and if I want to display a similar structure, I'll simply copy this code and get back to the code and paste here. So now I will paste it, right? So we are getting certain errors. So we are writing the JSX, not the HTML. So there are certain differences of JSX and HTML. The thing is that we are getting an error here on this statement. So basically the first rule of JSX says that every tag has to be closed, otherwise you will get error. The second thing is that the class attribute has to be changed to class name. So I'm going to change all the class attributes by pressing Ctrl F. I'll simply write class name instead of it, and I will replace all. So now we have successfully replaced the class by the class name. Okay, so this is the second rule. The first rule says that we have to close every tag, and the second is that we have to replace the class with the class name attribute. So now we can see we have got the navbar that we have imported from the Bootstrap. Okay, now what I want is I want to add one more component. For that I'll create one more component, let's say by the name of content.js. So in this also I'll copy the code from the Bootstrap, but before that I have to write the snippet for it. I'll write rfce, and instead of this content thing I'll remove this, and I'll go back to the Bootstrap. In the Bootstrap, let's say this time I want to copy the structure of a jumbotron. So I'll go in the jumbotron. So this is the structure that I want to display. So I'll simply copy from here, and I'll go back to the code and paste inside this return. Now still we are getting the errors because it has to be closed. That I have told that the first rule is that you have to close every tag. Okay, I'll save this, and now we'll import this component inside this app.js file, that is content. Okay, I'm getting the suggestion from here. I'll enter it. So whenever you are using any component, remember you have to import it at the top. Okay, otherwise it will not work. So now we'll get back to the browser. I'll refresh it. So now you can see we have successfully got the two components. The first is the navbar and the second is content, the jumbotron, right? So you can imagine if we have to do the same code using HTML, CSS or JavaScript, it would have been really tedious task to do. But with the help of Bootstrap and the components, we are able to do it in a very easier way, right? So now let's say I want to add the inline structure, inline style to this h1 tag. So I will simply write style equals to, for importing the style in JSX, we have to follow the convention of JavaScript object. Okay, the key has to be in the camel case. Let's say I want to add the background color, so I'll write it in the camel case. Okay, and the value should be in the inverted commas. Let's say I want to add red. So now we have successfully written the CSS for this inline CSS. Now let's get back to the browser and check the final output. So you can see we have successfully got the style for this, the background color. Okay, if we will not follow this convention, then you're going to get the style prop error. Okay, so yeah, so now in this lecture we have seen how we can create a component, what is JSX, how we can import the style property for the component, and yeah, this is what we studied in this lecture. So in the coming sections we can see the props and the prop types, and also we'll go for the hooks topics in reactjs. So that's all for today, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much.